Hello all, Jamie Rodgers here from Craftmania, and today I'm bringing you a brand new bundle that I think is going to blow your socks off. It's incredibly detailed, it's incredibly beautiful, and it's brought to us by Sam Poole. It's going to give you the ability to make cards like this really simply and really easily. And I promise you this, I'll even show you how to do it. This is one we're going to be demoing towards the end of the video to give you an inspiration on how you can bring these components together. We will also do this little demo throughout this video too, so you can see a couple of ideas of how you can bring these dies together. But before we move on and look at today's bundle, or even talk about last week's bundle, please don't forget to go and tap subscribe and click the bell so you're notified of all of our videos. We have got so much coming, and I keep saying this, and hopefully you're seeing it being delivered week on week, but I don't want you missing out on a single thing. There's so much more to come this year, and you don't want to miss any of it. It's going to be good. So make sure you've clicked subscribe, tap the bell to be notified. Now, last week's video literally launched last Sunday. We bought you, these are good, aren't they? These are your Mica Magics, and we bought to you 3 different colourways of these, and you could buy them individually, you could buy them in a big bundle, you could buy them with the daubers. It was up to you. Honestly, truthfully, we knew it was a great product. We absolutely love it. It's incredible. But we never imagined how many hundreds, and I do mean hundreds, of these you lot have been buying this week. It's been hard work trying to keep up with demand, and we have literally replenished the stocks at Craft Artists to keep bringing them to you. I've still got a few of these in stock. If you haven't seen that video yet, before you check out on today's video, do go and have a little look at that one, because you might want to add them into your bundle as well, or into your order. As I say, still in stock, still on offer. Don't miss out on them. And I will also share with you a couple of cards in today's video that has been created with these. So if they've landed on your doorstep this week and you're looking for a little bit more inspiration, I'll show you a couple of cards I've made, bringing in today's bundle with them to give you some more ideas. So then, today's bundle, this is gorgeous, this is lovely, this is lacy, it's delicate, it's everything you need it to be. This is our Sam Poole collection. Now, this is actually just a few of Sam's dies. We carry all of them on the website, but this is just a few of them that we have put together for you in a bundle, truly of all of my favourites, I suppose. And you can see you've got your big florals, you've got your incredible ferns, in here nested. We have a couple of these as well. These are our mosaic sort of artisan backgrounds. There's so many ways we can use these. I'll talk to you more about all of these in a second, but I want you to see that is your bundle. These are all of the dies we're looking at, all 6 of these designed by Sam Poole, who is the most talented and beautiful lady who creates these incredible vintage shabby chic collections that we know you love. But this is your time to grab this bundle with a huge saving. Now, this one should be £68.94, but at the moment it is reduced to just £54.99. Now, just as a reminder, you are going to receive 6 dies for your £54.99. So that's an incredible saving of over 20% off of your bundle price. Now, on top of that, if you live within the UK and you would like to order this bundle, you will receive it completely free of P&P. You don't have to pay a penny. It will turn up at your door and you will be able to get started and start playing with it. Now, if you would like to order this from around the world, you can of course do that as well. Our P&P is capped at just £10 for all international orders. If it costs more than £10, we here at Craftmania actually pay the difference for you. If it costs less than £10, which I will be honest is very rare, but if it does, we will refund you the difference. You'll be able to see what it costs. You can see that we're doing it all above board, but the most you will possibly pay is £10. So then, let's dig into these in a little more detail. Let's show you some samples, and then I promise you we'll do a couple of little demos to hopefully give you some ideas on how you can be bringing these together and creating the most magnificent cards with them. So our first one we're looking at is the Woodland Fern. Now, this is one die. Size-wise, it's 10.5 centimetres by 11.7 centimetres. So it's quite a big die, to be honest. And you can really see how we're going to be able to build up on top of that, use that as a focal point, make our backgrounds, make our borders out of this. it's going to come in really handy. You can, of course, snip in and remove some of the pieces. So if you'd like it to be slightly smaller, you could do. But actually, when it comes on to using this with your cards and your creations, I found it a beautiful place to land my flowers. Now, you rarely get any ferns or big branches like this in with flower dies. This is actually my decal edge blossoms, and we'll talk more about that one when we get on to actually demoing this card. But I found it gave the sort of background and placement for where these flowers could go really beautifully. So to me, this one's an absolute essential that I know I'm going to be using time after time. When we move on to our next one, we're going to be looking at the hedgerow thistle. Now this to me could be coloured in so many ways. We could of course layer this up and add on our own flowers, and I'll show you that with some of the examples shortly. But I know it's a thistle, but I actually feel, and I'm not the biggest on florals, so don't laugh at me, but I do feel we could colour that in quite a few different ways to create different styles of florals with it. Now this one again is one die. Size-wise, we're looking at 6.3 by 11.6 in centimetres. And as you can see, it's going to cut through in one piece and give you that beautiful effect. Now this, of course, is the card that we're going to be demoing with it shortly, but doesn't that show you how nicely just actually cutting one colour of craft card layered onto your card, how beautiful that could be. I can see this being draped around the edges of photos. You could even go onto photo frames and different home decor pieces, as well, of course, as scrapbooking, card making. It's just one of them you're going to go to time after time. We know florals are one of the best sellers when it comes to dies anyway, let alone these lovely large florals giving you so many options to decorate. Then we move on and we're looking at Artisan Mosaic Set 2. Now there are two of these. We've got the first one in this bundle as well with you. I couldn't possibly just leave you with one set because to me you're going to need all four of these. They're so unique, they're so different, and they're so much fun. Now with these sets we actually have 4 dies. So when we turn this one over, and hopefully you can see this clearly, we've got your inlay panel and then we have your outside edge. Now that really gives you so much more scope than if this was joined together. It means that you could cut out the aperture and sink in the panel underneath it. It means that your panel can be cut into the front of your card and then you can just leave it there. You don't have to use that outside edge. If you wanted to, you could take the outside edge and cut it from vellum or mirror card or a coloured card and place it behind it. So it just gives you them abilities to really play around with these. Now, if you're using like little electric candles and you wanted to make some nice sort of apertures on little display boxes and put vellum behind it, imagine these being cut in. They could really create some beautiful sort of backlit styles with those using them electric candles. You could go very shabby chic with them, which is obviously Sam's style. They look very lacy and very sort of ornate, so you could build them up in that sense. As I mentioned when we looked at them, to me, this one, I don't know why, but I can see Christmas. I think it's that sort of star element in here that I feel if you wanted to maybe put some gold behind it, cut it in your reds and greens maybe, you could look very festive. I also feel this one over this side has got more of a mesh style to it. So maybe for more vintage and men's cards, masculine cards, bits like that, this could come in quite handy. You imagine putting in some tools with this one and making that like the workbench background. That could work quite nice. You could of course take it and tile cut it. It doesn't have to be in a corner. It can be placed anywhere you would like to on your project. I have stuck to using these pretty much in corners because I found that they lended themselves to that quite nicely, but you certainly don't have to. Now with my panel here, I've actually used a pierced noble rectangle and I've put the die in, cut it the first time, then added the die on again and sent it through again so that we've got this double cut going on in the corners. I then used, and I did mention this, that we'd be using these quite a bit. I've used my lovely micas, my Mica Magic, to go over the top and actually add colour to the background, and it's picked up on the texture that's been put through from the die cutting plates as well, which I quite like because it gives it more of a different style. I've also used the Mica Magic to colour the flowers and the sentiment as well. Now at this point actually I will point out, if you're new to shopping with us, if you head onto the website and you look on the menu bar, now if you're on a mobile phone, that'll be a little box with a few little dashes through it, click that and the menu bar will come down. Or if you're on the website, there's a menu bar running across the top of the page with all our different sections on. Whichever one you go to, mobile or desktop, click on the one that says YouTube and it will open up and it will let you pick today's video. And by that, I mean there'll be a little page that says that we're looking at this incredible Sam Poole bundle, and you'll be able to click through to it. And everything I have used, things that are not included in the bundles, for instance, like the sentiment panel, like the sentiment, the script embossing folder, the oval die, the vellum, the tearing rule, the pierced rectangles, the card colours, all of that lot, even the pearls will be on that page for you. So you don't have to go and look around our website to find them. They're all in one place. We carry over 10,000 items at Craftmania. I don't want you to have to go searching. If you want that script folder, it'll be on that page so you can go and get your hands on it. That has just come back in stock this week after selling out time after time, and I thought that worked really nicely with our pierced oval. And it also, as you can see, the pierced oval, the pierced sentiment panel, all matches in with the pierced rectangle in the background, bringing that together. Now, moving on from this one, let's have a little look at our next one. So we're going to now look at mosaic set number 1. So very similar to some number 2, of course, but different in our design, slightly different shapes, of course, as well, giving that more sort of ability to use them together. You might wish to do that. You know, I've kept them very much with my projects that I've stuck to one piece for each one, but you can see how on here you could really tile cut them in and make some incredible designs by layering them together and actually making some really ornate papers with them or backgrounds. So just like the last one, 4 dies in this set, and exactly the same again, we've got that separate outside edge, so you've got your cutting panel and then you've got that edge to cut it out, or use it as a separate if you prefer. Now, this is what I mean about leaving them in your cards. I've mentioned this a couple of times. This is just a standard 6x6 craft card, and I've literally cut it on the inside on my coconut white panel as my insert, so you can see the craft card come through, and I've cut it out of the front of the card because it will stay in place. So if you want to cut your own apertures, you want that own sort of fretwork, that own lacy style, put anywhere on your card front, and we could multi-cut this if we wanted to. It could be a larger card. It's up to you, but it gives you that ability to cut in and leave that beautiful fretwork actually in your cardstock, which to me is a real game changer. On the front here, you can see I've brought in that beautiful fern. I've then used my decollage blossoms again to just layer over the top there and layer that up. I've added a little with love down here in the corner, but to me, I felt this could make quite a nice, simple wedding invitation, and certainly a way that you could go with them if you're going for more of a shabby chic wedding style. Then as we move on, we have got our Queen Anne's Meadow. Oh, I love this. I think this one is gorgeous. When you look at this actually put onto the card, you can see how prominent that is, how elegant, how beautiful, how easy it also is to snip and layer if you wish to. So you could actually add on more florals at the top there if you want. When we look around the rest of the card, we can see I've added on a little butterfly. I've gone for another oval that I've used my script folder on. In the background here, we've also brought in our Artisan Mosaics number 2. That's that lovely sort of crosshatch style one to add some depth into the back there. And we've got our little best wishes on our sentiment panel at the base here. All very easy to do, very achievable, but actually quite elegant when you bring it together. And this is just using our periwinkle cardstock and our coconut white card. And of course, our Queen Anne's Meadow die. Again, 1 die, going to cut that one out for you nice and easily. Then we move on to the last die in our bundle. This is our Victorian lace die. This is lovely. I truly am in love with this. You know, you look at this so easily. It can be vertical. It can be landscape if you prefer. The choice is yours. And then from here, the way you could extend it if you want to, you could make wraparounds with it. You could make decorations with it. You could fold it in half and sort of build it up in that sense. You can cut it in half, which we're going to be doing in our demo, and using it to make a frame with. You know, it's just a beautiful design that's going to cut in one go for you. And then from there, it's down to where you wish to go with it. For the card I've hooked out to share with you at this stage, I've taken my card blank and I've literally stuck this down the sides. It's also down the ends, so that when we actually look at the card, it makes up the front of our card. And then when we open up the inside, we've then got the same gorgeous lace design going around onto the inside of it. A really simple, really achievable look that just gives you elegance. And I've purposely gone here for using coconut white card on top of our ivory card blanks. So we're quite tone on tone, but you could of course make that pop with different colours and building that up in different ways. Then on the front here, and this is quite a nice way to show you as well, because you might not imagine it when you look at them, but when we looked at Queen Anne's Meadow, this beautiful floral here, and you actually take that and you cut that out in your same colour of your flowers, or maybe not, choice is yours, then bring on your individual flower dies and build up that top bit. Again, we can get flower dyes. This doesn't have to be this flower dye. It could be any flower dye you like. But it's actually having these stems that give it that prominence, don't they? You know, we wouldn't be able to just stick 5 or 6 flowers together in the middle of a card like that. Normally, it would just look a bit peculiar. But we add on this background, these beautiful stems, that little bit of grass at the bottom there, and it gives it a reason for being there. It gives it that believability. It gives it that whole sort of picture. And to me, that having the ability to come from that background and add to it means, again, this is one that I'm going to go back to time and time again. Now, you can, of course, do exactly the same using our hedgerow as well. And the hedgerow just gives you slightly different placements for where you're going to put your flowers. So again, both of them might be quite nice. You could certainly uniform them a little bit, because obviously the designs on the top are very different, but you could uniform your styles by using both of these on a project, maybe one on the outside of your card, one on your inside of your card, or maybe if you like doing fancy folds, putting these on different fold panels throughout, and then uniforming them by adding the flowers on the top of the same flowers and having those different stems and branches come from underneath. You can, of course, also go in and start snipping these about and taking bits out to layer with one another, so you can build up bigger imagery from there. But to me, that was just a really simple, elegant way to show you how you could add your own flowers onto them stems of them florals. So as we've seen through all of them now, let's give you a little look at a few others that I've been playing around with. So this, again, using one of our lovely mosaic tiles, adding that in once more to a pierced rectangle. On the front here, I've used our lovely Mica Magic once more to colour and age our florals, and of course to do the layer that's coming through from underneath our tile. I've also used it to just go around the edges back here of that matte layer, just so it ties in all the way throughout. The actual top piece here I've also put into an embossing folder, and I hope you can see that. This is one of our embossing folders we've got in at the moment. This is our lovely dotty embossing folder, and I'll put that on the same page for you once again. But it was just a nice way to not steal the show from this lovely mosaic, but to add in a little bit more detail in these open areas by just putting it into quite a simple embossed folder. Moving on, and we'll talk a bit more about this one when we actually get onto our demos, because we're going to use sort of the same idea, but taking the beautiful Victorian lace, and instead of putting it going onto the inside of a frame, this time we've brought it coming out from a panel. So this is just panels I've cut out using a guillotine, and then I've placed underneath my lovely Victorian edges just to give that sort of laid on doily style, which is so elegant, so pretty, so easy. Just cut my beautiful die cut here in coconut white again, foam padded it onto another embossed panel, and just like the card we're going to be demoing, I've stuck to our periwinkle blue card, running throughout all the different layers in all the different places, with some vellum as a little overlay that you might just be about to see down here, just softening up the layer between the lace and the blue itself. Of course, optional, but I do like doing that with vellum because I just think it gives a different style, that little soft, elegant touch to what we're working with. And I say we'll talk more about that one shortly. Moving on, a bit more vellum on this one, and I have anchored this down underneath my pearl, so I can't quite lift it up. But what I've done this time is I've taken that fern die, and I had an off cut of the periwinkle card, and I just took the fern die, and I believe I cut it 4 times, and just stuck them down flat, and then trimmed around the edges to make up my background panel. I've then brought in our beautiful cutout, again from coconut white card, of the Queen Anne's Meadow die cut, and this time I have layered it. There is a bit of foam pad between it, but it just gives you that little bit of depth, so you can bring that up, and very easy and achievable to do. I've glued my vellum down mostly under this little strip panel here, so that it's really anchored down, and then just added little dots underneath my pearls to keep it down, and then added on the panel on the top there to hold on my florals and my little butterfly. So again, very easy, just coconut white card, bit of vellum, and of course our periwinkle blue card. Then we move on to our next one. So again, we're bringing in them beautiful artisan mosaics. And this one is from set number 1. And I've just cut it into the front of the card. I've backed it on the reverse with some lilac card and then some coconut white card, so I could write my message on that back panel, or in the front here as well. Again, we've got our Queen Anne's Meadow just on the inside here, added on little butterflies from one of my die sets, just for you down the bottom. Very quick, very easy, just literally a few die cuts that have been stuck together to create that, and a little bow on the side. Then we move on to this one. So this time I'm bringing in a different design. This one is our hedge row, or our hedge thistle, sorry, to create this style this time. And I've cut it from green card and then brought in my deckle edge blossoms and layered those over the top. So it just shows how you can play them around. Now, when you look at the actual die, you will see that you've got 6 different locations to put your flowers. I found 6 of my decollage blossoms to be a little bit heavy, so I left the opening in the middle and instead put this flower over 2 elements, so it actually covers over both of them pieces. It's just a different way for you to see that you can, of course, take that and add to them. You could cut off the green or the stem and the flower head if you didn't want it to be there, but I actually just cut the heads off of the green bits and then stuck the flowers on in their places. Of course, you can see that lovely artisan mosaic tile cut from the second set coming in again in the backgrounds around here. Just a with love, couple of little butterflies, and all very easy and achievable to do. Speaking of easy and achievable, this one I found quite fun to do. This is using our wood grain embossing folder. Now, if you haven't already got your hands on our wood grain embossing folder, these flew off the shelves when they come in, and I mean flew. And we've just got them back in stock for about the 3rd or 4th time. We've been finding embossing folders incredibly hard to get hold of and incredibly hard to keep in stock because you all keep buying them, which is great. But this wood grain one is currently back in stock. So I wanted to do something very easy, very simple, very elegant. Just adding that fern in the background, bringing our flowers in a little cluster on the side here, frame it with one of our pierced frames, add on our little sentiment, and then layer it in with our wisteria and coconut white cardstock. I love a little bit of vellum because I think it's so soft. Again, you could colour that on the reverse if you wanted to. You could, of course, bring in your mica magics to them, or your inks, or your pens, whatever you're working with, and just really go to town on that. But actually the softness of the vellum I found quite delicate and quite pretty, and hopefully you'll agree that's quite an easy achievable card to create, again just playing around with a few dies. So let's jump in and have a little look at a demo, shall we? So for our first demo, I thought we'd have a little look at this one. This is such an easy, quick card to do. So we're going to start off and we're going to look at the actual card blank for this. So I've started off with a card blank which measures 7 inches by 8¼ inches, just to give you a rough size idea. I'm then going to bring in my first panel, which is just a piece of coconut white card. Now you're going to notice on these, I'm using my black foam tape. I absolutely love this foam tape. And I gave you a bit of a tip with this a couple of weeks ago on a video, maybe even last week. And I know it sold out very, very quickly. Now I know that we've got quite a few rolls back in stock. So if you're looking for some foam tape or you see that little tip and you want to stock up on it, now is your time to go and grab hold of it. Now with our foam tape, the little top tip I gave you, and I'll show you again today because I just think it's a great little tip to have. Your actual foam tape comes to you on a big roll. It's only £1 a roll. And as you can see, an awful lot on here. But what I do with mine is I take the self-adhesive sheets which come, or the lids off of the self-adhesive sheets. So this is the bit you peel away from the self-adhesive sheet normally. You've seen me use them in video after video. I then take my foam tape and I will literally stick it going down in lines as you can see it here. And then I guillotine it. And when I guillotine it, I get absolutely incredible value for money because it means we can take this huge roll and cut it into 2 or 3, or maybe if you're really frugal, even 4 widths. And you end up with strips that are perfect for going around all of the delicate pieces you need. And it's just a really great value way to do it. I use a huge amount of foam tape in my projects because I love that little bit of depth, that little bit of height that it gives you. And I always try to save money where I can do. And I found that that was the best value foam tape and way that I could possibly get more out of it. So I like to share these little tips with you. Now for my craft card today, we're going back to the video from the beginning of January that we did, and I'm using the beach pack of card that we bought you, and the card is on an offer for buy 3 packets and get 1 free. So it means you get 200 sheets, 4 packets in total, and it works out to be only £13.47. Again, you'll be able to see that video if you would like to on our YouTube channel, or of course on the website if you head on there and you go on to the YouTube little panel at the top there, or on the drop down menu box, and you'll be able to go on there and see that video. So that's the card bundle video, and this is the from the beach pack. You get different colours in there, but the craft card in that pack is a lovely one to be working with. That's what I'm working with at the moment. So we're just going to move on to one side for a second, and we're going to bring in our panel. So this of course has been cut into using our beautiful mosaic dies. I've gone round the back here with my foam tape, just as I mentioned. I can be quite OTT with my tape once I'm saving that much money on it and getting this many pieces out of one sort of strip as such. So I've really covered all of my bases and gone all the way around the edges and done that little bit in the middle too to really give some support here. Now, using this tape, of course, on this panel just means that we're going to have a little bit of height difference between the panel that we've got our cuttings and, of course, our craft card panel, which is really lovely because it then means that you're sort of creating shadows and a bit more depth instead of it all just being at one layer. We could, of course, stick this down flat, but I really like that little lift, that little bit of difference in height that we're creating with that foam tape. So we're going to place that down onto our panel, and then we're going to bring in some vellum. Now, I absolutely love vellum, and I love tearing vellum. And again, we've done a video on this, but just in case you're wondering, I'm using our decal edge rule. There are 2 different sides to it, and it's just so easy to work with. Just take your vellum, hold down your ruler, tear towards you, move it along to the width that you want it to be. Now, I know that I want to put on one of our flowers, so I can roughly bring in a die cut, see where I want it to be, think, okay, that's great, and then tear against that part. And you've got this beautiful decal edge, shabby chic style vellum, which is perfectly level, so I don't have to worry about when I tear it myself, going off on tangents, ending up with big bits and little fluffy bits. Everything is going to work for you, and I can then take the vellum and I can continue on with the rest of that sheet, tearing it as I need to. For this one though, this panel will be fine. So we'll bring this in. We're going to take it to our panel that we're creating. We're going to wrap that around there, just roughly by eye. Bend this bit over and give it a little fold down. Bend that bit over and give it a little fold down. Check that we're where we want to be. So I'm going to slide this one slightly more off to the left for this panel. And then we're going to bring in our glue. So I'm using our Dries Clear Cosmic Shimmer Glue. Now this has just gone back on offer. It's got 15% off of it. Once again, it comes in 3 different sizes, but it dries clear and it has an incredible bond. So if this is a glue that you like to use or you've not yet tried, you might want to add some of that to your order as well. But it, as I say, comes in a few different sizes. This is the largest bottle, and this one's 125 ml. We're then going to take the panel and we're going to add this down onto the card, and then we can build up on top of this one as well. I love doing little patterns on the back. So this time I've gone for a bit of a swirl with my glue. Sometimes they get quite ornate. Today, just a little bit of a swirl, and we'll place that down. Now, I love the way the mosaic is showing through underneath the vellum because it just softens it. We've got it more boldly coming through from around the edges, but under the vellum, it just adds that soft feel to it. Now, we could have added the vellum underneath the panel if we had a preferred. We're going to stack that on before the foam tape, so we've still got that lift, and then you could have had that softness underneath there. But actually, it's this bit that I really like. Having it just pop from under there and showing us what we've got that going on, I think is really lovely. Now, when we start talking about our die cuts, I had a feeling that you might like to see a selection and to see how they could all come together. So on the card, obviously, we used the hedgerow thistle, which is the one I've currently got laid on here. But we could instead bring in the fern. That's rather pretty, isn't it? I love this fern. And I like the way it's got quite a prominence to it. It's quite a big die, this one. So again, nice backgrounds that could look really lovely. I think because it's going over the edges here of my vellum, I might go for the other one instead, or one of the other 2. Oh, this one's nice. This one, of course, is our Queen Anne's Meadow. So we could bring that one in. Let's go for this one because it's different then to the original, and you'll get to see 2 different styles coming together, which can be quite nice. So I'll bring this one in. We'll add our glue to the reverse of it. Now we're going to be sticking down flat. So I'm just adding on some little dobs here of glue onto the back of this. Hopefully you can see that okay. And we'll add a couple of little dots just going down the stems as well, just so that they're not sort of hanging off. We don't want them to be hanging up in the air. We want them to sort of adhere down nicely. We're then going to bring that in, and we can add that one just at the top, giving that a good push down where needed, making sure that that's nice and anchored in place. Then for the rest of this card, I kept it very simple. We're going to bring in one of my little sentiment panels. Now these sentiment panels actually come out with Christmas sentiments in the middle of them, but I love these. I go back to these time after time. So we're going to add this one on. I think this one comes with Festive Wishes by memory. Something along them lines goes in the centre there. But I've used my dies instead, and I've gone for With Love. And this is one of my sentiments from one of my sentiment collections. I'd like to tell you I can remember which set it comes from, but I can be quite honest and tell you I haven't got a clue. But I will, of course, put it all on the same page for you. But if you like the look of the sentiment and you like the style of the font, then do have a little look, because there are lots and lots of different packs, including male sentiments, female sentiments, Christmas sentiments, Valentine's, Halloween, Easter, all different sets and styles that run through the different collections, which will give you a whole host of those. So you might like this to say, with love from mum, or to dad, with love, or anything similar. There are all different options on how you can build them up. And I always like, if a font matches, how you can take it through from your gift tag to the insert of your card, to the outside of your card, and then maybe even onto the scrapbook page that celebrates the occasion and the family get together for that occasion. So everything coordinates throughout. And then I added on a couple of little butterflies. Now this comes to you again in one of my different die sets, but these little debossed butterflies are really cute. So I'm just going to add one on this side, and then we're going to add one more just up above the flower, just so it sort of ties together and shows you that they're flying around in the little meadow and having a whale of a time. And that shows you how quickly and easily, for just craft card, vellum, and of course coconut white card, how we can bring these cuts together and how we can build them up. As I mentioned earlier, you might choose to put a couple on a project, you might wish to layer them, you might wish to colour them. You imagine something like the Mica Magics or your Distress Inks actually put over these craft card elements. That's going to look really, really pretty for you, and just gives you a little idea on how you could create this card. And now on to our second demo. So for this one, we've gone for this really lacy design. Now I used periwinkle card for my version, but in this demo, we're actually going to be using wisteria card, because I think it's important that you get to see how this could work in so many different shades. So I'm going to switch it up just a little to give you a bit of an idea. Now, just like the last one, let's start off with our card blank size. So this is a big card. Now, I know we have a lot of viewers from around the world who especially don't like sending cards quite as big as this one. You can, of course, shrink this design down, and just like the last one, you can take elements and you can bring it down slightly. This frame that we're working with could literally be half the size, quarter of the size, and we can place our lace where we need to. Maybe just have it at the tops and the bottoms if it gets a bit too heavy, having it all round, or use the lace in strips behind it. There are so many ways you can build this up, but I love big cards, so I'm kind of showing you with this size, but hopefully I'm sure you've got the idea that you could shrink this down if you wish to. So for mine, it's 8 inches by 9 inches, so it's a big old card. I even had to make it out of A3 card to be this large, but I really felt it was so pretty that sometimes we need them special cards, don't we? You know, for our true loved ones or our special events, sometimes it's nice to push the boat out and make a proper focal. Or maybe, you know, if card making isn't your thing, or maybe you wish to do something different with the idea, this could be a photo frame. We could sink photos in the middle of it, or it could, of course, be the front of an album, or of a little booklet, or of a journal, or a mini album, whatever you prefer. It's just the idea I'm trying to give you today and the way that we can use these elements. So I'm just sticking on here some of our wisteria card and some of our coconut white card, just stepping down at 1/4 inch increments with each layer, just to give you that little matte layer, that little pop of colour coming from out the side there. We're then going to move on to our frame. So my frame today, I've used some pierced edge rectangle dies, and I've just nested 2 together and cut them through to create my frame. I've then gone ahead for speed and I've added foam tape to the reverse of this one. And I am using white foam tape, and I know in the last demo I gave you that wonderful tip of how you can save money using our black foam tape. Sadly, our black foam tape is out of stock in white currently, so to use white, I had to use a more expensive one, but I've used our Woodware foam tape, which again you will find on the website, and I believe it's currently got a little bit of a reduction to it. Slightly smaller rolls, as you can see, but slightly thicker. This one's a 3mm foam tape, so it's got a little bit more of a height to it. But when we're looking at something that's going to be so white, so delicate, so lacy, I didn't want to run the risk of you seeing any black coming from around the edges because of the distance on our frame here. With the last card, all of our black foam tape was hidden underneath. You're not going to see that at any angle. But when we're looking at this one, we're looking at very small areas. I don't want you to see that, and I think the black goes quite nicely with a craft card if you did see it. With this very delicate, very lacy white card, we don't really want to see black foam tape coming through. So we're then going to cut out, oh, if I can get unattached to my frame. I should have done this first and totally forgot. So let's show you this now. This is our, of course, our Victorian lace panel. Now, I'd mentioned earlier, wrapping these round and turning them into little napkin rings and bits like that. You could absolutely do that with these. I'm not convinced you couldn't extend the design on by sticking them and layering them and cutting them. You can certainly use them side by side or tip to tip and carrying up to make much bigger backgrounds. Imagine these cut and laid all over a 12 by 12 for the backing of a page would look beautiful. And of course you can cut into them in many different directions, but for today's demo we're going to go straight down the middle. And that will then give us these two pieces, which is just great value, because if you think of it logically, you know, you can, like all dyes, there's many on the market, you might be able to find a lacy edge like this one, but it's only going to do that one thing for you. Having that ability to cut this in half and use it as a solid and wrap it and do all the different techniques of it, to me, this is a real one that I'm going to need in my stash for a lot of years to come. So we're going to bring this in and we're going to put these onto our frame. Now I'm going to start at the ends here. I'm just going to pick an area in the frame so that we're going up and we can see that sort of half moon part going through. We're going to turn around so we're at the opposite end. I'm going to put the die cut down front forward and we're going to place that one onto here as well. Now at this stage, you might choose to leave it. You know, I mentioned this when we're looking at smaller cards. That's really pretty, that's really delicate, that's really lovely. Now you could put your photos in there, you could add more into the middle if you wanted to, because we've got more area to fill. But for this card, we're going to continue on and we're going to bring in a couple more and we're going to add them to the sides. So we're just going to place this one, exactly the same idea, just going down the side here and push that one on. This doesn't have to be exact, you know, nothing with me is overly exact, but this never has to be too exact because we can add more to them. We're going to shape them slightly, we're going to bend them around a little bit. So if it's not spot on, it's not the end of the world. But you can see how pretty that is already, can't you? Isn't that stunning? And I know I mentioned this, but you imagine putting different colours under here. Now, look how stunning that is with the black. If anyone's into Halloween cards, Halloween projects, that's quite striking. You imagine putting your mirror cards under here, your golds under there, your bright fuchsias, your reds for Valentine's Day, your soft greens for Easter. You know, you could go all the way through the season creating frames like this and building up on the inside of them. Now on my finished card, I added another row of foam tape around this to give it more height. But for speed today, I'm going to take this one and we're going to place it down because you don't want to watch me cutting loads of foam tape. I'm also going to show you a bit of a trick for this. Once we've got it down and in place, and this can create the illusion of height without necessarily having to put in extra height and use extra foam tape, is just going in and bringing this forward. And you can really bring this out to make quite a 3D feel to it. You don't have to be as bold as this. I'm just trying to show you how you can really bring that up into the air if you want to, how you can really shape that, how pretty that can look with that little bit of forming going on. Then from here, we're going to start bringing in our components. So I know that I want to use this beautiful fern. So I've cut two of these. I'm going to add some glue just going down the stem. And we're going to be covering these with our flowers. So again, it doesn't have to be too exact. We're going to give a little bit of lift to each of the fern pieces so that they've got more depth to them, a little bit more 3D. And we're going to tackle this one and we're going to put it down just on the side there. So it's going right the way up to the top of the frame. We're then going to bring in the second one. We're going to add a little bit of shape into that one as well. Always good to do that before you put the glue on, but never remember. Then we'll add a little bit of glue on the back of this one. And we're going to put that one going just over the top of there. And we're purposely crossing them because that doesn't matter. We're going to cover those with our flowers. Now on to our actual flowers. Now again, I've used my Decal Edge Blossoms. And this is one of my dies. I'll put it on the same page for you so that you can see it and it's all together. When this one cuts, it puts in these little score lines that hopefully you can just about see on here. And they are great for bringing in your tweezers and just walking along the edges of your flowers to give a more crinkled effect to each of your petals. You certainly don't have to use this style, and you certainly don't have to use this flower. I have a feeling that if we added on something, and I'll talk about my flowers because I know the names of them. I'm very bad with names, but if you brought in the rippled poinsettias on here, decorated them in the same shades, added a bit of glitter, that would work really nicely. You could bring in our lovely daisy dies and add them on the top here instead if you prefer. You could go to town and bring in the lovely 3D roses and add them on here if you wanted. you know, anything would work here. We've just got a blank canvas really for any flowers to go in and be built up on top of. But for mine, I really like this decal edge because I felt it matched in with the edges going around here in that same shabby chic style that Sam has achieved. Sam does a few flower dies of similar nature of sort of deckled edges and shabby chic styles, and they're slightly larger. You could bring them in and infill those if you prefer. Then all I'm going to do is add some glue onto the reverse of these. So I've just done that 2 or 3 times, by the way. Added in the middles that come with them so that they're all done. Then added in some little pearls into the centre of those. And we're just going to start placing these down. Now, I'm going to ask you at this point to vote. Once you've watched this video and you're sort of going back to out of it and onto your comment sections and that bit, let me know, what do you prefer? Do you prefer the wisteria that we're working with here, or the periwinkle blue that the original one was done in? I've got to be honest, I love periwinkle blue, so I think the blue is winning it for me at this point, but I really like the softness of the wisteria. So let me know what your opinion is. I'd love to know, genuinely. I always feel like I've got my tunnel vision of colours, and it's really lovely to know what other people prefer and which ones they pick. So I've asked you to do this a few times, but I would love to know, wisteria or periwinkle, what one sort of wins for you. We're then going to bring in that banner again. So again, I think this is still with the Festive Wishes one. I've built up the foam tape so it's 2 high on one side, 1 high on the other side, and this will make up for the height of the frame that we've put in here. Of course, if I had have added another layer of foam to the frame, so I'd got more depth, I would have had to have added another layer onto the panel as well, just to bear in mind in case you do recreate, but adding that extra layer. Then I've got a whole nother set of sentiments. These come out of my Fairy Wishes collection, and they have their own sentiment panels, but I really like bringing them in and using with the Christmas ones. I suppose it's nice for me to be able to show you how everything works together and, you know, all interchangeable as such. So I'm going to use the Just For You, and we're going to add that one on to our panel here. Just give that a little push down so that that's nice and in place. And then to finish this card, all I've done is taken a few pearls, and we do these pearls. I've got just a little offcut here, but we do these pearls, big sheets, hundreds of them on a sheet for £1. And I'm going to put them in the same place so you can see them on the website too. So if you are in the market for some pearls, these are our little ivory ones, but they're incredible value, and they really do just finish off any project. So we'll add in a few around there. And we'll add a couple if I've got enough. Oh, I think I've got just enough. If I don't ping any, this is where I'll ping one off across the room and we'll never see it again. But if I've got enough, we will do our 4 for the corners. And then that will give you the idea of, do you prefer wisteria or do you prefer periwinkle? And you're going to have to let me know because curiosity is going to kill me. Well, thank you very much for joining us, and I hope you've enjoyed that little demo, and I can't wait to see what you vote, whether it's wisteria or periwinkle. So don't forget to leave that sort of feedback for us in the comments. If you have any questions about today's video, then again, pop them in the comments, whether that's on Facebook or YouTube, and I'll do my very best to answer them for you. Your bundle, of course, just before I go, should be £68.94, but you can buy all of these lot for just £54.99. Now, as I mentioned earlier, that does include free UK P&P, and your international postage is capped at just £10. Now, if you've got any questions, once again, pop them in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them for you. If you don't like ordering online and you would prefer to, you can, of course, call our call centre on 01493 843 666, and we can process your order for you. If you are going to go for the bundle, or maybe you've already got bits and bobs from it, or you just want to share with us anything else from any of our videos that we've been sharing with you recently, we would love to see your creations. So pop onto our Facebook group. It's a closed group, so you will have to go on there and answer just a couple of questions, but it's of course free to join. Your information isn't shared with anybody else, and they're just questions to keep out people that we don't want in there. The people that sort of spam and do things like that, we don't need them, do we? So it's just questions to make sure you're a crafter and you're going to join in and follow the rules. But when you're in the group, we would love to see what you've been creating with this bundle or any of the other inspiration we've been sharing with you on Facebook or in our group, or of course for our videos here on YouTube. And the group you're heading for is on Facebook, and it is called Create with Craftmania and Jamie Rodgers. And I would love to see you in there sharing, talking, chatting away, and of course asking us any questions and sharing with us what you've been up to. Now, I hope you've enjoyed today's video, and I can't wait to see you all again soon. If you do wish to order, pop onto the website www.craftmaniacraft.com, or as I mentioned, give us a call 01493 843 666. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye for now.